It didn't start with an investigation, not with a scandal, not with a whistleblower, a late-night Oval Office address, or a leaked memo from inside the West Wing. There was no breaking news banner, no emergency briefing, no smoke rising over Washington. It started with something quieter, something almost boring. A number, 37%. Just ink on a polling graph. Just a percentage inside a file. Just a figure most Americans will never read, but one that every strategist in the country noticed instantly. Because that number wasn't just low. It was a threshold. A tripwire. The kind of number that turns confidence into calculation and calculation into fear. 37% was the approval rating of a president who once claimed he was immune to the old rules, a man who mocked the very idea of polling, who insisted the only numbers that mattered were the ones on rally screens and ballot boxes. A man who sold the world on the idea that he was untouchable, unshakable, unbreakable. Above the institutions, above the press, above the experts, above the historical curve. But now, 1 year before the midterms, history is knocking on his door anyway. Because the rule is simple and merciless. A president under 40% approval heading into a midterm doesn't just have a problem. He has a fallout event on the way. Presidents under 40% don't lose popularity. They lose power. Not always the White House, but the battlefield around it. The House, the Senate, the donors, the endorsements, the media shield, the myth of inevitability. And once that myth cracks, it doesn't repair itself. It spreads, like a fracture in glass. This wasn't just a poll. It was a flare fired into the night sky, seen by those who understand the language of numbers. A warning, a shift, the first quiet sign that a political empire may not fall in a single moment, but in a slow, undeniable slide. A statistical shot across the bow of the Trump era. But here's the twist no one expected. The Democrats aren't popular. They aren't united under a single message, a single leader, or a single vision. They are divided, frustrated, and in many ways still recovering from the fractures of the last decade. They are not a party riding a wave of public admiration. They are not trusted by the majority of Americans. They are not seen as the solution, just as the alternative. Their favorability sits near historic lows. Their internal arguments have turned into public exhaustion. And yet, they are winning the only metric that decides a midterm election: enthusiasm. According to the poll, 67% of Democratic-aligned voters say they are extremely motivated to vote. Only 46% of Republican-aligned voters feel the same. That gap isn't just a statistic, it's a warning shot. Because midterms are not won by the most liked party, but the most determined one. The side that shows up wins. And right now, for the first time in years, the energy in American politics is not coming from the people who love Trump. It's coming from the people who want to stop him. This is not a blue wave rising. This is a red turnout decaying. Slowly, quietly, invisibly, beneath the surface. And here's the part that keeps Republican strategists up at night. Enthusiasm doesn't just predict turnout. It predicts momentum, donations, organizing, volunteerism, voter registration, and ballot chasing. It predicts who is living in political war mode and who is just watching the news. In politics, energy is currency. It determines who knocks on doors, who stands in lines, who donates $10 they can't spare, who convinces 5 friends, who shows up in the rain at 7 a.m. on a workday. The poll didn't just reveal where the country stands. It revealed who is willing to stand up. And right now, the side that hates Trump is more energized than the side that supports him. That, more than the approval number, more than the generic ballot, more than the headlines, is the nightmare scenario. Because when a leader's base stops fighting and their opposition starts mobilizing, what follows is not a debate. It's a reckoning. Something changed, slowly at first, then all at once. This wasn't the kind of rejection that comes from a single scandal or a single headline. It wasn't born from outrage. It was born from exhaustion. For years, Trump created a political universe powered by emotion. Anger, loyalty, defiance, adrenaline. People didn't just vote for him. They fought for him. They defended him in arguments, in families, in workplaces, online, at rallies, at Thanksgiving tables. But emotion is fuel, and fuel burns out. The latest poll shows it clearly. 63% of the country disapproves of Trump's presidency, the highest of either term. 61% say Trump has gone too far in using presidential power. 56% believe his foreign policy has weakened America. 57% say he has gone too far deporting immigrants. 61% say Trump's policies have worsened the economy. 68% say the country is on the wrong track. This isn't ideological rejection. It's consequence rejection. People aren't saying, "I disagree with his policies." They're saying, "I'm tired of the chaos, the instability, the noise, the fights, the fear, the headlines that never end." For a long time, Trump's appeal wasn't about policy. It was about story. He was the outsider, the fighter, the man who said the unsayable, the wrecking ball against a broken system. But eventually, the wrecking ball becomes the wreckage. Voters aren't looking around and saying, "Was Trump strong enough?" They're looking around and saying, "Why does everything feel worse?" When a president becomes the symbol of exhaustion, the loyalty doesn't flip to the other side. It evaporates. People don't switch teams. They stop playing. That's the part the poll reveals. The rise of the silent anti-Trump voter. Not a protester, not a Democrat, not a radical, just a person who wants the noise to stop. Someone who says, "I don't care who replaces him. I just don't want 4 more years of this." That is not a political argument. That is a breaking point. Trump's greatest weapon used to be emotion. Now emotion is what's turning against him. The anger has curdled into fatigue. The entertainment has turned into embarrassment. The rebellion has turned into instability. The fighter now looks like the cause of the fight. Americans don't just want to defeat Trump. They want to move past him. That is deadlier than opposition. That is irrelevance in motion. But presidents don't get in trouble when people stop supporting them. They get in trouble when people stop defending them. Trump is now at 63% disapproval, the highest of either term, higher than the day he left office in January 2021. When disapproval crosses 60%, the system shifts. Senators stop protecting him. Donors start shopping for successors. Local candidates start running away from his endorsement. Movements built on loyalty become movements built on survivorship. Trump's power was never just in what he said. It was in what everyone else was afraid to say out loud. Now the fear is slipping. Once the idea of Trump as unbeatable cracks, it spreads. First in whispers, then in strategy calls, then in public defections. Not in headlines, in hesitation. Something deeper is happening than voters switching sides. They aren't becoming Democrats. They aren't becoming activists. They aren't rewriting their political identity. They are doing something far more dangerous to Trump. They are disengaging. The poll shows it clearly. 19% of independents say they wouldn't vote for either party right now. 41% of Americans say they will vote specifically to oppose Trump, not for policy. More Americans have ruled out voting Republican than Democrat. The most devastating political shift is not rebellion. It is apathy. A leader survives anger. A leader doesn't survive abandonment. Every midterm election is a referendum, but this one is different. It is not a referendum on a president's first term. It is a referendum on whether his second term was justified. This is the first time in U.S. history that a returning president will face a midterm judgment. If the poll numbers hold, 2026 will answer a single question. Did America make a mistake? And is it ready to correct it? Even inside the GOP, something is shifting. 55% of Americans believe the Republican Congress is supporting Trump too much. 61% say Trump abused presidential power. 56% say his foreign policy has weakened America. 57% say he has gone too far on immigration. These aren't radical left numbers. These are mainstream national numbers, the kind that flip suburbs, strip Senate seats, and topple party leadership. The GOP thought they had time to unify, time to ride out the chaos, time to keep Trump as the figurehead while preparing the successor behind the curtain. But time is no longer neutral. It is now acceleration. If Trump enters 2028 with approval still under 40%, the math is brutal. He can't win a general election outright. The movement that once feared life without Trump will begin imagining it. Donors, strategists, governors, and candidates will quietly reorganize the party without him, not by attacking him, not by confronting him, but by waiting him out. That is how eras end, not by explosion, but by evaporation. This poll will not be remembered as the moment Trump fell. It will be remembered as the moment Trump's inevitability ceased to exist. Every empire dies twice, first in reality, then in belief. And the belief is breaking. 37% wasn't a headline. It was a countdown. The question now isn't can Trump still win? The real question is will the movement go down with him or leave him behind? And that is the real battle of 2026. So now it's your turn. We've seen the numbers. We've seen the shift. We've seen the beginning of something that just a few years ago no one thought was possible. A moment where Donald Trump's greatest threat is not the Democrats, not the media, not the investigations, but the erosion of belief. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of the end, the slow unraveling of a political era that once looked unstoppable? Or is it just another dip, followed by another comeback, in a cycle we've all learned to expect? Are the Democrats actually rising? Or are they simply standing still while the Republican Party sinks under the weight of its own leader? And the biggest question of all, if Trump drops below 35% approval, does the GOP stay loyal and go down with him? Or does the party finally do what it's been afraid to do for years, survive without him? I want to hear your take. Drop a comment below. I'm reading every reply. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is not just another election cycle. This is the reshaping of American power in real time. And we're going to follow every shift, every fracture, every turning point, before history turns it into hindsight.